I also want to pick a bone with you because you're saying, not that many exciting games. You tell Plymouth fans that this isn't exciting.
Okay, fine.
You tell Exeter fans as they host Nottingham Forest. You tell Orient fans as they take on Man City. Wigan as they take on Fulham. Birmingham as they take on Newcastle. And Doncaster against Crystal Palace. You tell those fans that this isn't exciting. And they would disagree. And I fundamentally disagree as well.
All right.
You also tell Leeds and Millwall fans who are going to have a nice
the list goes on and on. Welcome to a very special edition of Just for Kicks, because the first half of the show we're going to be talking about the matches that have been played and the FA Cup matches that are going to be played. And in the second half of the show, we're going to be concentrating on the transfers that have just happened. But not just the transfers. We're talking about the business of football in some detail with our three pundits. And the final reason before I introduce the pundits, why it's a very special show, is because we are being filmed. It's not being broadcast live. You will have to get onto the Google tubes yourself and find how to witness this, but it'll be your opportunity to see the outfit that a very, very smart Des Corkill is wearing.
A very sleep-deprived Des Corker as well. Watched the 4-star performance from Liverpool last night. In fact, I'm staying up and watching a lot of late football. It's not good for you.
Well, somebody who is not scared of that, Myra.
I was also up, Des, by the way. Not as dapper as Des today, but yeah, equally sleep-deprived.
And finally, are you sleep-deprived, Kishan Sundaresan?
I'm trying to make more of an effort to record games and watch them earlier in the morning.
Because that's the Bob Holmes
these
technique.
Early morning kickoffs are killing me these days sometimes.
Yeah, I have retired from international football. In that sense. Keisha's Astro, their highlights package is very good.
Thank you. I'll make sure I pass that information on to the guys.
Please do. It's a really beautiful job they do. So let's go straight to the EFL Carabao Cup semi-final, second leg. And let's start with you, Myra, because I think you'll be neutral on this. Liverpool 4, Tottenham Hotspur 0. Spurs went in with a one-goal, what's the opposite of deficit? Advantage. But that didn't make any difference.
Well, thank you so much for starting with me, because I have an extremely long rant on Spurs, actually, because I stayed up to watch. I didn't have too high of a hope, I suppose, because I know how dominant and great Liverpool are. But on paper, I thought they looked competitive. At least, like, they have Kevin Danso in the squad. He made his debut. A very, very good centre-back from Lens. But the first half was extremely frustrating. I thought it was incredibly difficult for Spurs to kind of just progress the ball and like to do anything in the attacking third. I think there were two sequences in the first half that really, really made me frustrated. There was one time where I think Kulusevski was making a driving run into the box, and there was only Richarlison who came to support, and everyone kind of stayed back.
That's not Ange ball.
That's not Ange ball, exactly. Oh. And then there was another sequence where they were enjoying a spell of possession, right? And then they were facing a Liverpool in settled defense. And then they just passed it back. They didn't even try to kind of like play between the lines or like try to force out a move out wide. It was incredibly conservative from Ange in the first half. I thought Son
was that parking the bus? Did Ange park the bus?
They did not park the bus, but they just couldn't play very well. Oh. And this was also down to, I guess, Liverpool's midfield being really, really dominant. Szoboszlai and Gravenberch were excellent. But yeah, a lot of players had a poor first half, and I thought Ange would kind of tweak it a little bit. He did bring in Lucas Bergvall, who is my new favorite Spurs player now, to kind of refresh the midfield. That worked for a tiny moment, and then and that's about it. They didn't really threaten. They didn't have any shots on target. Right?
But Keith, no shame in losing to the best team in probably in the world right now.
I mean, no shame, but it's also very frustrating from a Spurs point of view. Very, very frustrating. Because you've craved for this moment. Spurs fan at this point, when they think of winning a trophy, it's not so much about winning the trophy per se, but it's about what winning that trophy would do for the what I would like to describe as the mentality ceiling at the club. Because for a large portion of the players yesterday, it felt like they were in awe of the occasion. at Anfield. They were really overwhelmed.
Mm.
I mean, I've been a huge fan of Yves Bissouma. I mean, even at the office, people make fun of me for how much I used to love Bissouma and want him at United while he was still at Brighton. But he was absolutely horrendous in this game. I mean, he was so pedestrian. He was nowhere close to the aggressive Bissouma, the guy that worked his socks off. Even Sarr, on the other hand, I thought was really, really, really underwhelming as well. Sometimes I look at the Spurs team and I think of how much of an engine they need. And I just think, imagine what Ange could do with a midfield trio of Jordan Henderson, Wijnaldum, and like Fabinho at their absolute peak, because that's what they're craving at the moment. That midfield was bypassed so easily for far too many times throughout the course of last night's game. And I'm not saying all of that is purely on Spurs and their own deficiencies. Of course, Liverpool put a lot of pressure, and I'm sure Des will get to that because they were phenomenal as well. But surely the Spurs midfield have got to be better than what they did yesterday.
Des, you probably have thoughts on this, but I would like to turn your attention actually to the opponents that Liverpool are going to face in the final. Newcastle 2, Arsenal 0. I mean, there was talk that Arsenal will overcome that deficit.
There was talk from Arsenal that Arsenal would overcome that.
Yeah, but they
there
did
was
not.
a lot of talk from Arsenal fans, and the Twitterati is very quiet once again, our Arsenal brethren. So I thought Newcastle were terrific, but Arsenal dug their own grave. The second goal in particular, I've been whinging about this now for 2 years, playing out from the back. It's cost so many goals. I need Opta to do some stats on how many goals are conceded from trying to play out from the back. Arsenal are already 1-0 down. They're still trying to persist in this dangerous way of playing football. When Declan Rice, there's somebody on him when David Raya passes the ball to him. Now, that's not Raya's mistake. It wasn't a great pass, but it's not a mistake. It's the way they've been taught to play by Mikel Arteta, and yet it costs them a goal, even at the very top level.
Yeah, but we've also seen goals scored because of
We haven't seen, so this is my issue, that the goals against compared to the goals for, we haven't got a specific stat on how many it's produced. And I would argue that so many goals are being scored against even with the top teams, that it's not really a tactic worth continuing
straw
with.
poll here.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I remember having the same question a while back and going through the trends via Opta's data. And what you do see is that there's been a significant increase in long balls via the goalkeeper directly to the final third over the last 3 to 4 seasons. One of the main reasons is a lot more teams are getting very proficient with pressing far up high, that it's forcing a lot of goalkeepers and defenses under so much pressure that there is now a slow move towards goalkeeper playing it longer.
As it always used to be.
But trends shift there. So
Yes.
Edison, for example, now can hit it very long, and he's doing it a lot more frequently than he used to, let's say, 3 to 4 years ago. So that trend is happening, and it will keep evolving as you go along, because teams do press super high up, and as a result, you cannot even afford the tiniest bit of mistakes at the back, because teams will punish you right now.
Oh, okay. I'm going to take a break now. Before I go, though, the man who's always adapting new styles of play, David Moyes, at Everton. Brilliant long ball goal just the other day. Pickford and then whoever it was who scored. I love that. Anyway, take a break. When we come back, we're going to be looking forward to the FA Cup matches, and then we will be talking transfers here on Just for Kicks on BFM 89.9. Welcome back with myself, Des, Quiche, and Myra, and now we're talking FA Cup 4th round matches. On paper, not the most exciting, but let's start with Quiche and Sundarisa.
I wonder why.
Manchester United, your team, playing Leicester City. A cup is still on the cards for Manchester United, is it not?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not just about the trophy, but it's also about the access to Europe. United have got, given where they are right now in the league standings, let's forget about aiming for Europe via the league. United have got 2 options to get into Europe next year, which is very important for PSR reasons, right? One is winning the FA Cup gets you into the Europa League. Second is winning the Europa League gets you into the Champions League. So it's a huge, huge competition. From Ruben Amorim's point of view, I think it wasn't a perfect January window. We'll talk a lot more about that, I suppose, later on. But the addition of Patrick Dogu is the one that everybody is excited about waiting to see, because we finally have a legitimate wing-back at the club. who will be a lot more suited to the kind of football that Amorim wants to play. I think the most important thing now that the window is done and dusted is how do you get the best out of Højlund and Zirkzee? Because forget about a lot of the other things that United are going through.
So there's a Des Corkill's stomach, I think.
First and foremost, they've got to score more goals. It's as simple as that. Before we dive deep into the tactics, into the setup, into the system, you've got to score more goals first. You've got to get into good positions and finish those chances.
But he's not playing Zirkzee and he's not playing Højlund.
Hang on a minute. So you've got two strikers who are really, really lacking in confidence at the moment. And you've got to find a way to get the best out of them. I suspect the last game, which was the only time where he didn't play the both of them together, was, I think, a message from Amorim to the board. It was that desperate last gasp message that I don't have a striker and I need one before the window
they get rid of
shut.
Marcus Rashford.
And they tried. They tried to go and sign Tel from Bayern Munich.
They
Didn't work out. But now that the window is shut, you've just got to focus for the rest of the season.
Can I ask a question? If let's say Liverpool win the League Cup and FA Cup, then who gets the is it the runner-up in those competitions?
I think it's the runner-up gets the place. I think I'd need to check.
Probably
It trickles down into the 6th, I suppose, on the league table.
In the league table.
Does it go on the league?
Yeah,
It goes into the league table.
Does it go on the league? I thought the runner-up.
Yeah.
Oh no,
it was the league table.
Okay. So Des, I didn't really let you talk about Liverpool just now, but they're playing the mighty Plymouth Argyle.
They certainly are. I also want to pick a bone with you because you're saying, not that many exciting games. You tell Plymouth fans that this isn't exciting.
Okay,
You tell
fine.
Exeter fans as they host Nottingham Forest. You tell Orient fans as they take on Man City. Wigan as they take on Fulham. Birmingham as they take on Newcastle. And Doncaster against Crystal Palace. You tell those fans that this isn't exciting. And they would disagree. And I fundamentally disagree as well.
All right.
You also tell Leeds and Millwall fans who are going to have a nice
the list goes on and on.
It does. It's a fantastic draw is this one for football fans. Not those are the top 6, but for football fans.
Don't anybody dare say there are no replays.
And Des was the guy who was complaining about the Champions League fixtures, saying that there were no exciting games just a couple of weeks back.
And that he hated the format.
That's knockout.
Yeah.
Knockout's great.
Some beautiful fixtures in there.
Yeah, there are. Knockout's great. It's the 8 games it took to get there. That's my complaint about this.
Tell the people of Girona.
Exactly. Tell the people of Girona. Tell the people of every single small team across Europe that's participating in the competition.
I've agreed 100%. The knockout games are fine. It's the money-making routine that takes to get you there.
So that was Plymouth Argyle versus Liverpool.
Plymouth bottom of the league. They shouldn't have a chance. Liverpool will
Yeah.
rest us up. Just about, I'd imagine 9 or 10 changes.
Will we see a lot of young academy players?
Yes, you'll see McConnell getting a game. You'll probably see at the back, Quansah will certainly get a game. Kelleher will be in goal. I know he was in goal last night. But so you'll get a lot of youngsters because Liverpool have got Everton. Last derby at Goodison the week after.
Which is exciting now.
That is a huge one because there are stumbles in Liverpool, or there's potential stumbles, and I think they'll be looking at that more than the Plymouth game.
Just a very quick shout out. There's a beautiful article, I think it's on the BBC website, written about the Plymouth boss, Miron Mulsic, who used to be a refugee in the past, and his pathway into football. That's one. And second, go and watch the video of him delivering his first official speech to the Plymouth players after replacing Wayne Rooney. It's probably one of the best things I've ever watched. So
because
go watch it.
It's
amazing. It's very inspirational, but at the same time, it's very relatable. It's a really positive speech.
And that's why these games are so exciting. That's why, because they're proper football games. They're not about money. They're about football and opportunity.
Okay, people of Plymouth. My grandfather's buried in Plymouth, so go Plymouth. And Myra, I'm going to give you then the good people of Exeter City.
Love them.
Versus Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't... again, this is also similar to Plymouth Argyle versus Liverpool. I feel like it's probably not the best matchup. In terms of... Nottingham Forest are one of the best teams in the Premier League at the moment. They're on form. And Exeter City are not in great form at the moment. They shipped 13 goals in their last 3 games. And they're incredibly leaky. I made some research.
What league are they in?
I'll ask Des
I
that.
think they're 17th in League Two, something like that.
Oh, okay. You should know that kind of thing, Des.
Yeah,
You should be ashamed of yourself. quite
Judging by
frankly.
the performances of Chris Wood lately, I feel like.
I think he's the best player
But
in
if
the
Exeter
world.
were to win, it's a story forever.
Yeah.
If
think
they
they
get
can,
a draw, they're not allowed a replay because the money boys
here
have
we go.
taken the
I see.
replays away from the little boys.
Producer Daryl, shoot him with the tranquilizer gun now. It'll take several minutes for the stuff to work. Okay, let's all jump in. I'll give it to you first, though, Des. Leyton Orient versus Man City. Goodness, Manchester City. I mean, come on.
Well, they've just spent an absolute fortune in the transfer window to try to make sure that they get in the top four in the Premier League this year. Will they be looking at the cups? Possibly a little bit like Man United. They'll say, okay, yeah, we've got the Champions League. Yes, let's look at the cups. Let's try to take this a little bit more seriously. They should be able to bring in a lot of their young players. Of course they should in these early stages at Orient, which is a lovely playing surface, by the way. Beautiful playing surface at the old Brisbane Road. But City should be good enough to get through. But again, what's a story for Orient? I still remember when Orient beat Chelsea in a cup fifth round game back in the 70s. That's what these games do. They're special.
Myra, is that written into Chelsea folklore?
I was not alive back then, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you. But also Leyton Orient, I think in the past game, or I think the game previously, their goalkeeper scored like a 99th minute equalizer, I think.
Oh, wow.
No, that was Jimmy Glass. That was Carlisle.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it not?
No, it wasn't Orient, I'm afraid.
Because he went up and he
Sorry.
did a header. He did a header
Was
or
that
something.
not Josh Keeley?
Not the one that kept him in the league.
Oh.
It was Jimmy Glass.
Oh no, not in the league, in the cup.
Oh, in the cup.
This was
I don't know.
recently.
Recent.
Oh, recently.
okay, okay.
Sorry. I thought you were
Des
talking
Corker.
70s.
In the 70s, I
Not
would
in the
not question you.
70s. She's
in
talking
the-
about now.
Why would I ask you about the 70s? Des?
90s was Jimmy Glass, wasn't it?
Des Corker, we've established a long time ago, there was no football in the 1970s.
Football started in 92, right?
In 1992, it was invented in 1992. Hey, but Keish, Manchester City, where are they now? What's going on? Are they any good? Are they?
They're in the middle of a transition. What I mean by transition is there's a leadership change. Biggery Stein, the outgoing sporting director, is set to leave the club. They have fast-tracked the arrival of Hugo Viana, the new sporting director, who was supposed to join in the summer, but he's been allowed to leave in January itself, at the end of January, by Sporting. So he's going to come in, and there's going to be a period of transition. There's going to be a redrawing of exactly where do they go after this, because obviously there's a number of aging stars in the team that will slowly be pushed out of the club one by one, quote unquote. I don't want to sound so brutal, but that's what's going to happen. The likes of Kevin De Bruyne, whether it's Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, even though he just came back. And it's time for the new generation. That's why your Kusanovs were signed. That's why your Vitor Reiches were signed, Omar Marmoush. So it's time for the newer generation of players to take in. So Pep is going to be working very closely with Hugo Viana to sort of spearhead the direction of this new
Pep's
era.
going to stay.
He's
As of
got
now,
2 years.
staying,
he's
yeah.
signed an extension. So
Yeah, but I mean, so
Jurgen
what?
Klopp did as well, yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I don't think Pep could go at the same time as Tiki,
Biggery Stein, yeah.
Biggery Stein. He couldn't go at the same time because losing both of those key players
Yeah.
would be too much. I think that's why Pep added his 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Can I just say, absolutely dead right, Josh Keeley scored against
Right,
Oldham
yeah.
in the last minute of
Yeah.
Sure.
a cup final.
Magical
here
moment
in the
there,
early
guys.
days.
You
How dare
see?
you
So
So
for
Josh
that?
Keeley,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Leyton Orient, yes.
Yeah. And now we will try and find, see if we can tell where Leyton Orient is on the map.
Oh, I absolutely can't.
East London,
Is it?
yeah.
Okay.
Clapham.
Clapham.
Actually, no, there used to be
South
Clapham Orient.
London.
Leyton Orient, it's East London. It's East London.
Clapham's in the south. I used to live there.
There used to be called Clapham.
Okay, he's getting everything wrong. Why do we believe a word he says? Let's turn now to. Actually, going to ask Des and Keish on this one. We're going to turn to the Shopee Cup and KL City, our very own KL City, went to Thailand and Des.
Lost to Buriram. No disgrace. Paulo Josue suspended. Kamal Azizi suspended. Backs to the wall job. It was always going to be. Buriram won 1-0. A goal from Lucas Crispin late in the first half. KL played well, defended well, but the resources. So Buriram are the Johor Darul Taksim of Thai football. Masses of money, fabulous facilities, fantastically run club, top of the league. They've won the last 2. I think they've won 7 out of the last 9 in Thailand. Looking to get progression in the Asian Champions League. They've got a big match coming up against Ulsan, I think. So no disgrace to lose, but it's a simple one of the resources. And again, we've got to say the KL players they're playing their hearts out without financial reward.
Without being paid, you mean?
Yes.
I can't get my head around that. It's just...
It's promised. It's due. It's promised. But it's
months and months as well.
Yeah.
I texted Gigi before the game because I just had a very good feeling about this one. I know KL City are backs against the wall, but that's where they like to be. Throughout the last few years, they often come out shining when they're absolutely against the wall. And in this game, up against Thai Giants, who, by the way, held JDT to a 0-0 draw at the Stadium Sultan Ibrahim. So, nobody was giving KL a chance. They were going there without 2 of their very important players. But I just had a very good feeling, and I was just texting Gigi saying that I really, 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 really hope they pull it off. And to be fair to them, they lost by a single goal at Buriram. And they could have even scored 1 or 2 in that game, KL. I know they, for vast majority of the game, they had maybe about 25 to 30% possession. I've got an astonishing stat. They made 34 clearances in that game. 34. So it was a proper defensive, let's get the ball out of the way performance. But at the same time, there were moments where they could have come up with a goal.
Well, we're grasping at straws here because it's a resource thing now, and we can't just say KL were brave. They were brave. They were brave.
I'm not denying the resource thing, Des. I'm just saying that in spite of the resource thing, it's absolutely commendable the way they performed, because that's what every 100%. Single KL City fan was talking about yesterday, was the way they performed.
Got to mention Terengganu as well.
Yeah, Des, you got 30 seconds.
Terengganu lost 4-3 in a thriller against Pathum United, so Pathum United will play Buriram in the semi-finals. Terengganu were ahead, a brilliant goal from Akia Rashid, but then conceded 4 in about 15 minutes in a very Terengganu way of collapsing. Scored 2 late on, but couldn't rescue a place in the semi-finals. So Terengganu eliminated. I think the best teams have got through: Buriram and Hanoi from one group, Terengganu and PSM Makassar from the other group.
But we're liking the ASEAN, the Shopee Cup.
Yeah,
loved it.
Loved it.
Yeah. Okay, we take a break for the news. When we come back, we're going to be doing in-depth analysis on transfers and the business of football here on Just for Kicks on BFM 89.9. Welcome back to Just for Kicks, a special edition which is being videoed, and it will be available on the Google Tubes and our
Google Tubes.
That's what it's called. It's called that.
It's just YouTube, Cam. You know this, right?
No, it's the YouTube.
Oh, okay.
At least give me that.
YouTube.
Yeah, right. Give me that. And our 3 pundits today: Kishnan Sundaresan, Myra, and Des Corkill, and we're going to be talking in this half of the show on transfers and the business of football. Let's begin with EPL clubs who've done the business in this transfer window. Des, Aston Villa, it may surprise some people, has been a very big spender.
I think they bought very, very wisely. They've stuttered a little bit in the league because they're dealing with Europe and the league simultaneously. The riches of European football make it very, very worthwhile getting into the Champions League. I think Aston Villa have made 75 million in the group stages, 75 million euros just in the group stages of Europe.
This is television money.
Television money. So that is worth it. Plus gate money from full house at home and full houses away. So getting into Europe is a $100 million euro bonus. So they want it again. Plus, it's great to play at the top level. And they've signed really well. Mellon, I think, was a good signing from Borussia Dortmund. He's not going to be a match winner. Asensio's a sensational potential signing from Real Madrid on loan. Disasi will help them defensively, a little bit of strength and depth. But I think the Marcus Rashford one is great for both. It's a potential. It could go horribly wrong, but I think Rashford was a wonderful player. Something has stopped him being a wonderful player. I think Emery will get the best out of him. Emery's spoken about him in the past, I think, and he will use him. He won't press. He won't do the things Emery normally needs his forwards to do. But I think that's a really good signing for both. It's great for Rashford. He's a great man. He's a superman and a good footballer. And it really gives Villa a chance to maybe propel themselves back up into the top echelons once again.
What do you think?
Unai Emery prides himself in being able to revive attackers who are sort of fading away. It doesn't always work. I mean, the Zaniolo experiment didn't exactly come to fruition. But that's what he's trying to do here. I mean, you look at this three. I don't know how to label or contextualize Axel Disasi. I think Myra can do that much better. But Daniel Marlin is hated by a lot of Dortmund fans. And I know one who's like the president of the Malaysian club. He absolutely despises Daniel Marlin, thinks he's an absolute failure at Dortmund, and they've signed him. Asensio, in and out of the team, has, people call Asensio the player who never really fulfilled his absolute potential as well. But clearly Unai Emery thinks he has something to be able to rescue in him. And Marcus Rashford is the vintage example, right? A player who's definitely fallen down the pecking order, a player who hasn't played for 11, 12 games, a player who is desperate for a fresh start. He's publicly spoken about it. And he prides himself in being able to revive the careers of these men. How effective it'll be, we don't know. But in the case of Rashford, for example, it's minimal risk because they are just paying 70% of his wages. I don't think there is a fee involved in the loan.
There's a potential buy.
There's an option for purchase, which, by the way, at 40 million
is a
if
steal.
you get Marcus Rashford scoring 10 goals by the end of the season, 40 million will be an absolute steal for him. So a lot of good business in there, but the Rashford one is fascinating because it was not driven by Monchi or the football directorship structure. It was driven exclusively by Unai Emery. It was at his request that the club went into the race for Marcus Rashford, and they've acquired.
I think it's also worth mentioning they've picked up 65 million for John Duran, who, although he scored some great goals, he's not going to be a legend at Aston Villa. I think that's great money from Saudi Arabia.
I just feel sad that such a young player has retired from football.
He's not retired from football.
He
He's
can come
picked up
back anytime.
Exactly.
He's 20 years old.
Exactly.
No, he's retired.
He wants to play in the AFC. He wants to play Johor in the AFC Champions League.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, very quick, on the Monday show, the guys, we were talking about players who, because Rashford, it's apparently about lifestyle choices, the nightclubs, etc. We're trying to work out how many players who have had that kind of lifestyle and still been really great players. And we can only think of two, Maradona and Ronaldinho.
See, with Marcus Rashford, I think the lifestyle choices do have some truths to it, but I don't think it paints the full picture.
I don't think so either.
His mom has come out and spoken about Rashford losing his best friend and even his cousin, they lost both of them in the last 18 months or so, and that put him in a really dark place. Bear in mind, something similar happened to Jesse Lingard towards the tail end of his United career. He came out and publicly spoke about his struggles. His mom battled addiction and how much that had an impact on him. But then he went on loan to West Ham, and we remember that stint. He had 14 goal involvements. He was absolutely on fire. But United failed him because they brought him back. They didn't do anything with him. They refused to let him go to Newcastle, who wanted to sign him on a permanent deal. And his career went further down. And now he's back enjoying life. He looks so much happier right now. But again, with Marcus Rashford as well, it's not as simple as just the lifestyle. I think there's a lot more to it. I think the fresh start is so needed, not just for the club, but also for him.
Yeah. Well, I wish him luck. I think he'd be great. I think he'll be great at Villa. Myra, your club, Chelsea, who have in their own way rewritten the book on transfers. They've had a pretty fairly busy time.
With the outgoings.
With outgoings.
Yeah, it was a very much appreciated exercise of restraint from Chelsea. I know the sporting directors are probably dying to sign 20 more players, but they signed only one, a midfielder from the French league, as a midfield depth. But a lot of outgoings. I'm very happy. They sold Cesare Casade to a club in Italy, Torino. They loaned Axel Disasi, and another person I'm really excited about his loan is Ben Chilwell, who's been like a complete model professional throughout the past half season, when Enzo Maresca kept on saying that, you're a surplus. My system doesn't play with wing backs. You don't have a place here, and I'm really sorry about that. But he kept quiet. He just trained with the team. And now he's going to Crystal Palace, which is perfect because they actually play with wing backs. And we remember that one glorious season from Ben Chilwell in the Champions League. He was instrumental for Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel to get us that Champions League title. So, yeah, I'm very excited for him to kind of revive his career there. Yeah.
And this is PSR stuff, isn't it? It's them offloading people from their books that puts them in a... I'm guessing that's how it's done?
No, I think with
Because they
the
still have like 50 million players, don't they?
with the amortization, and they sold Conor Gallagher. Apparently, that's pure profit on the books. So if they sell an academy player, that's pure profit, and then they can kind of like stretch that out for like the next couple of years. But yeah, I think they've done really well just loaning players. I think this is also kind of like a gateway for them to actually sell these players on, trying to get more value for them, which is really, really good, because you can't get value for players who are on the bench or are not playing, right?
Hey, we've run out of time in this part, so we will come back and do some more of the clubs and here on Just for Kicks on BFM 89.9. Welcome back with myself, Des, Myra, and Keish. And now, rather than going by club, I'm going to ask the pundits to choose transfers that they think have been of interest. Des, what caught your eye?
Well, I'm going to have to say a club's transfer, the Manchester City scenario.
Okay.
I think it really is interesting. We mentioned it earlier with Begustan leaving. I think they took their eye off the ball a little bit. We all did, because they've been so successful. I don't think we all appreciated how aging the team was and their dependence upon Rodri. The Rodri injury has really exposed everything. Pep Guardiola's now got his 2 years to try to work with a lot of new young players. Marmoush is young. Nico Gonzalez will probably come straight into the team. That's an interesting one. He's potentially the man to fill the Rodri hole, although that's a big hole to fill.
It's an understudy, I suppose.
Yeah, indeed. Marmoush, I think, is very exciting. I love the fact that Husanov is going to be there. I think he will get some games. I think Husanov's a terrific player. So there's a rebuild going on at Manchester City, because De Bruyne's getting on. Gundogan, we already thought was an aged player coming on. So there's a rebuild at Man City with Erling Haaland on that 9-year deal, probably there to lead the line for a long time to come.
But how could they have not spotted that the team's getting older?
So Begiristan he's at the end of a 10-year spell, and he knew he was leaving, and maybe, I mean, even Bill Shankly in the old days, he was loyal. Even Ferguson, in many ways, was loyal to a lot of players beyond their sell-by date. And you only notice players have gone past their sell-by date when they stop performing. But up until last year, Man City players were performing. There wasn't. Maybe the first indication was the FA Cup final against Man United when they didn't perform.
And I don't think they also anticipated Jeremy Doku to be an inconsistent figure at times. Savinho has not exploded as much as they anticipated. Jack Grealish has just gone off the radar, completely struggling. So there's a lot of these minor factors, coupled with the fact that with the sporting director leaving, you don't necessarily want to take too much of a risk spending. You might want to wait for the new guy to come in, and then you go.
Correct. He's already got his what people are going to remember him for, the 4 championships and the Champions League, etc. So maybe he just had his eye on off the ball a little bit, as did Pep.
Okay, Myra, what's caught your eye across Europe?
I have been pretty interested in the outgoings of Manchester United. Keish, I know we talked about Marcus Rashford, but another person that I was really, really invested with was Anthony. And I really get a lot of joy from players, kind of rejuvenating their careers and finding a place they can call home. Not that it would be, I don't know, but Real Betis was struggling. Like, they were really, really struggling in terms of just creating anything, scoring goals, creatively lacking. They were relying on a very, very, kind of like sunset career, Isco, and also a couple of other players. But they're an old squad. And then Anthony coming in, kind of like bringing in the injection of energy, I suppose, because they have like a couple of young players in that front three. I think there's Vitor Roque and there's also Easy Abde. And in his first match, I think he got unofficially, or like the La Liga.
He was like the man of the match.
Man of the match, yeah. I'm very excited about that.
Anthony, I don't know, is he good?
He's good, but he's not £100 million good. And that's not on him. That's on the club. But unfortunately, when you join a club like United with that sort of price tag, the expectation on you compounds. And players have spoken about this all the time. As easy as it is for us to say that the price tag should not define you, but for a lot of players, sometimes it does. It's an overwhelming pressure put on their shoulders. And in Anthony's case, with the struggles at United, even as a team under Ten Hag, under Amorim, I think it was very difficult for him to find a safe space for him to just sort of grow into his role. So I agree with Myra. I think it's amazing that he gets a fresh start at Betis.
All right. Akish, I'll end with you on this part. Which transfers have caught your eye? In England or across Europe?
I mean, the one thing I agree with Myra is, the football fandom world is so binary these days, where a player is either absolutely world class or it's absolutely horrible. There are no in betweens. Players can't be afforded, struggle periods. You can't afford to have any of that. You're either great or you're bad. And because of narratives like that, you get so many players falling through the cracks and sometimes being not being appreciated for their talents or being slated and criticized and slammed all over social media. And I love the January window because it's usually the period where players break away from a toxic environment and try to find a new lease of life. In the case of Anthony, João Felix, for example, from Chelsea. The transfer that I'm most excited about is Carney Chukwuemeka from Chelsea on loan to Borussia Dortmund, because to this day, I know people don't talk about Chukwuemeka as much anymore because there's so many more exciting players at Chelsea to talk about, like Cole Palmer, for instance. But I really adore this guy. I think when he was younger, to me, he was one of the best young players in the world. And I still think there's an absolute footballer in there. And it's just about waking that footballer up. And Dortmund right now, I don't know if it's the best of environments. They're going through a transition. Niko Kovac has just been appointed as the new head coach. But what I do know is they don't have a great midfield. They're struggling at the moment in midfield. Sabitzer has been in and out. Lucas Nemecha, as great as he is, he has also had off games. So I think Chukwuemeka walks straight into that team. I think it's a great opportunity for him to revive his career and get a new lease of life and become the player that we know he can. I mean, just look at Hudson-Odoi. Once upon a time, Bayern Munich wanted to sign him from Chelsea, and then he just fell down the pecking order. And now he's rediscovered his form and happiness at Forest. And I hope this scenario happens for not just Anthony, for João Felix, and even guys like Carney Chukwuemeka.
God, you wish people well, don't you, Keith?
They get abused far too much.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Hey, so transfers in general, Des, it's been a fairly quiet winter transfer. I don't know if the money, last year or the year before, the money seemed more perhaps?
So January is normally a time where if you're in trouble or you need to rapidly change something, a la Man City, a la Aston Villa, you'll spend. Not many huge transfers, saying that Van Dijk came in a January transfer and so did Luis Suarez at Liverpool. But generally, January is a time just to recalibrate a little bit. And I think we've seen a lot of recalibration. The one that really interests me, though, is John Duran, as you mentioned, going to Saudi Arabia. It just shows the mercenary nature of many footballers, how that there isn't a lot of loyalty on either side of the equation. Villa fans were going gaga over him. Goggs was loving him, and they were thinking, oh, fantastic. Somebody comes offering a lot of money, disappears over the rainbow.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not a Birmingham boy, right?
No, he's not. He's a Colombian. But that's what I mean. It's mercenary. We talk about this loyalty, and we talk about, I certainly talk about the community element of football clubs. At the top level, doesn't matter in the slightest.
If you also know the background that John Duran comes from, the small village and the town that he comes from in Colombia and what he had to deal with growing up as a kid, being offered the opportunity to make £300,000 a week tax-free is certainly an opportunity I don't think he was going to ever pass on.
Yeah, similarly to Kavica Kvaratskhelia, who moved from Napoli to PSG. He was earning $1 million a year at Napoli, and then now he's earning 10. So, and even then, I don't think he went there with the idea or like with the promise that he would get a starting 11 spot. Because they're already kind of like packed in that left-wing position. You got he's competing with Bradley Barcola, Desiree Doué, and then Gonzalo Ramos is a striker. But yeah, the opportunity to earn that much and kind of like feed it back to your community and your family is also a huge thing for these footballers.
But to be fair to him, I think he's going to a better football club. And he's got a chance of winning the Champions League. PSG minus Mbappe.
Napoli are top of the league.
I know they are, but
Conte's first season, he wins everything.
I can't see them doing well in Europe. I can see PSG. A PSG at some stage will get it right, and I think
Luis Enrique, building something really fun there.
I think he's part of a building team there. But the figures, I mean, the figures we're talking about, they drive me crazy because the haves and the have-nots are becoming worse and worse and worse, more extreme. We're talking £100 million. That's 600 million ringgit for one player. It's mind-blowing. It's obscene.
So if The English
And
Premier...
I don't see how it makes business sense.
Right, okay, but the English Premier League is the biggest league in the world. I mean, in terms of...
It generates most revenue.
Yes, financially, okay.
And it doesn't pass any of it down. It promised when it first launched it would send 5% down to grassroots. None of it has gone down. So it was meant to spread the love, and it hasn't.
The people of Leighton, we apologise to you. But I just want to ask a question, though. So therefore, if they have the most money, and I don't know by what factor it is compared to number 2, which is, I'm going to guess, Spain?
Probably, yeah.
Probably. So therefore, if you have more money and you spend more money, you get better players and your teams are better.
Yes, but I also think it's a bubble. And I think...
It's a 20-year bubble.
Yeah, but... and I think there has been a decline. If you notice spending patterns, I think it peaked about a few years ago. I think that amount has reduced drastically. I think you're seeing Premier League clubs more and more desperately sound out Saudi Arabian clubs to come and purchase some of their biggest assets because it's becoming unsustainable to keep and maintain and service all of them. So I think PSR has put a lot of pressure on the clubs to start operating in that manner. I mean, you look at United in the past, a Man United team with a new manager in January, I guarantee you they go out there and sign a few players to help him. But now they just couldn't. They just can't because of PSR regulations. It's really tight. If they want to have a decent summer acquisition, they had to be tight in January. So PSR is helping. It's an imperfect system because I don't like how clubs are bypassing it by, it almost feels like it's encouraging and incentivizing them to sell academy stars because of the pure profit concept. I hate that, right? It's an imperfect system, but it's putting some degree of pressure on clubs at this point in time.
So, Myra, you watch a lot of football. You watch a lot of Italian, Spanish, etc. More money means better.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. If we've seen, cases like Chelsea and also cases of overspending like Barcelona a few seasons ago when they spent so much money on Neymar, they spent so much money on Antoine Griezmann who didn't really work out for them. It doesn't really translate to that. But of course, if you have money, you can give them better wages than what the player is receiving at their current club. And that's usually a huge attraction factor. But it doesn't really equate to that. I don't think so. You have to spend smartly now. I think echoing Kish, I think the trend has been declining a little bit because now you see big clubs are also kind of trying to find young and up-and-coming talent. And they're scouting in like the various areas in South America. They're scouting in other leagues, in Sweden, in Scandinavian countries. So they're not gonna be a victim of these 100 million, 150 million transfers anymore. I don't think so.
Oh, it's a shame. Well, I enjoyed those. Okay, very quickly before we go, well-run clubs though. There are well-run clubs.
So many of them.
Yes,
Brighton is a prime example.
They are. They've just spent £230 million in the 24-25 season on transfers because they've made
a lot of money
million before that. Interestingly, I've just got a stat here: wages to revenue. It's improved a little bit in the Premier League. I was expecting there were going to be some teams who are spending more in wages than they are in revenue. Everton are the worst. 90% of their revenue goes on wages. Some clubs have been spending 120, 130%. Happens in the Championship a lot because they dream of the riches at the top. But it seems as though PSR is helping clubs become a little bit more rational in how they are performing their business.
All right. Well, and on that optimistic, happy note from Des Corker on the future of football, we come to an end. And remember, folks, this episode is being filmed, and I'm going to put my hand in front of the camera right now just to prove it. And so check us out. And I'd like to thank Kishan Sundaresan.
Cheers, guys. Really, really enjoyed this one.
As seen on TV, Kish. So it's like, there's no big deal to him. And also, as seen on TV, Myra.
Thank you so much. Watch us on Google Tube.
It's Google Tube, yes. Type in Google Tube or get a young nephew to do it for you.
You can't say that to Myra.
So Myra, come on. Myra can do it herself. I'm talking to you, Des.
I'm a millennial, okay? Yeah. I know how to work technology.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we Gen Z, me and Des Corkill, who's wearing an amazing outfit. You must listen, watch it. So thank you, Des Corkill.
My pleasure. A reminder for the local football fans: Johor Darul Taksim can win the league in Malaysia this year. Not a big surprise, but a very well-run club who have money to spare. But if Selangor lose to Pahang at MPPJ, Johor will be champions for season number 11.
With about 8 or so games.
With a lot of games to go.
Yeah.
They've got Asian Champions League games coming up as well. A big one in Australia.
Okay, and I'd like to thank our producer, Daryl Ong, and I would thank the video crew, but there's so many of them, here on Just for Kicks on BFM 89.9.